Good afternoon, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you for coming back and nice to have you here. So, August 7, 2021, I have some updates on the situation on the border area, Tigray and Amara region, and some other news. But before that, I choose a music to relax today for the beginning. We have so many issues bothering us. Let's relax a little bit, then go back to the news. Let's listen to this music. Okay, so that's uh, just a little bit love uh, to just, you know, uh, remove too much stress, too much bad news in our life. So sometimes we need it, but uh, there are some issues copyright issues for so many music. So that's a challenge. I hope this will pass. Uh, Other than that, uh, you know, as long as we don't make money from this video, I don't know why they care about copyright. Nobody's making money. We're just doing something, to entertain ourselves, share some news about our country, about the globe. So that's enough about love, more than I can say. So I hope, uh, you know, uh, I share my love to my listeners. I enjoy your engagement. I enjoy sharing, your ideas. You guys are very, very good knowledge of the current situations in Ethiopia. I appreciate that. I read them. I comment on them. Sometimes I'm busy, but still I see the comments shared from my listeners. Thank you again. Let's get started. I don't have much, but let's say uh, the first one, update on the war. Heavy fighting is going on around the city of Waldia and it is surrounding towns. Uh, Lalibela is still in the hands of TDF despite intensive ongoing efforts by Amara Special Forces and Federal Defense Forces to recapture it. On the other front, TDF fighters are trying to capture the city of Waldia and the surrounding towns. The Ethiopian federal government and the Amara Region's administration renewed their calls again to use all their resources in their offensive push against TDF. They are determined to use untrained Ethiopian youths, elders, musicians, and others as the firewood for the sake of keeping Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed in power and other Prosperity Party officials. They are wasting the country's resources in waging the war. They have been defeated repeatedly, even with well-trained professional defense forces. The international community should urgently stand against the ongoing and very alarming bloodshed instigated by Ethiopian authorities amongst the citizens of the same nation. All efforts must be done to bring the Ethiopian authorities to negotiating table and in paving better ways going forward. So that's a little bit update. And as you might heard from different media sources, uh, they are calling all citizens uh, to defend Waldia, to defend Gondar, to defend Lalibela, even to go further into Tigray regions and uh, you know attempt or try to defeat TDF out of Tigray. They claim, but I don't think they can do it. But they are bragging about all these things, eliminating or the way they say, uh, uh, throw TDF in the air like ashes, like they claimed before. But it's too late now. TDF is a formidable force. It's not only defending Tigrayans, but TDF is now to waging with other federal forces to to restore stability and freedom, justice in that country by removing all these federal forces and or prosperity forces. Because if they are not removed, there will not be stability in Tigray or somewhere else. Because they want to have a unilateral government, no federal government, unilateral government or unitary government, one party, prosperity. That's it. That's the plan. They will not be successful, no matter how many military or how much resources they have. They tried, but they will not be successful. So they declare multiple times. They are still declaring war on Tigray, calling all men and women to shed their blood for Prosperity Party or to keep Abiy Ahmed in power. They were not successful in the past. They will not be successful in the future. They have not, they try, but they will not be successful. The other one is there is a statement released by Foreign Ministry of Ethiopia. I will read this statement. The title of this statement is Preoccupying Issues in Ethiopia and the Way Forward. So this is a press statement for Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ethiopia. So you might hear some offensive words in this statement, so take it easy. They may call TDF as a terrorist organization, terrorist group, blah, blah. So these are just words because that's expected from your enemy. Your enemy will not praise you if you want to eliminate you. They have to use very bad words to describe you. So in the same way, I just warn you, you might hear I'm reading some statements, some words describing TDF as terrorist or some other terms. The statement starts, the situation in the Tigray, the unilateral human rights ceasefire declared by the government of Ethiopia, including the need enhancing all-inclusive national dialogue, have been the major preoccupying issues lately. The government of Ethiopia has been committed to the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire that it has declared on 28 June 2021 in a bid to give respite to the people of Tigray and make use of the farming season. Regrettably, the TPLF has failed to reciprocate. The terrorist group chose to launch new attacks in neighboring regions of Afar and Amhara, which left more than 300,000 people displaced and thousands of dead. The government of Ethiopia has been firm in its commitment to ceasefire. However, the international community should stop giving a deaf ear to the ongoing atrocities of the terrorist enterprise of TPLF. The government of Ethiopia could not allow the warmongering group to launch new attacks in neighboring regions and continue disrupting the livelihood of the people. The action of the irresponsible group is testing the federal government's patience and pushing it to change its defensive mood, which has been taken for the sake of the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire. It is a high time to call a spade and the terrorist group accountable for the deaths of thousands of teenagers that it wantonly using as cannon folders. Through the federal government of Ethiopia has left no stone though the federal government of Ethiopia has left no stone unturned to give lasting peace to the situation in Tigray, it is being forced to do none but respond to the renewed resolve of the terrorist TPLF to expand the conflict to the neighboring regions and destabilizing the country. Concerning humanitarian access, the government of Ethiopia remains committed to employing everything at its disposal to expedite the process and let the necessary aid reach the people of Tigray. The effect to give humanitarian support also include the newly displaced people of the Afar and Amhara regions due to the ongoing atrocities of the terrorist enterprise of TPLF. The terrorist enterprise has been playing the victim while keeps on hindering humanitarian access. The government of Ethiopia once again calls upon the international community to condemn continued acts of hostility perpetrated by the terrorist TPLF despite the unilateral humanitarian ceasefire. So this is a statement by the government of Ethiopia, by its foreign affairs, foreign ministry. So as I said, they are repeatedly using TDF or TPLF, describing it as terrorist organization or terrorist enterprise. I said, don't be offended by these words. As I said, your enemy will not praise you when he's fighting you. They will spoil your name. They will destroy your name. TDF, we know, represents more than 6 million Tigrayans, even though the government and the Amara administration try to, or their supportive media, try to separate TDF from Tigrayan people. They couldn't. They tried in the past 8 months. The people said, they stand with TDF no matter what, in up and down situation. They cannot separate. So calling TDF with different names or calling other like Oromo Liberation Front or other legitimate organization by different names will not resolve the country's problem. As I said repeatedly, the best thing is to deal with all stakeholders, pave the way for transitional government, have reconciliation, have dialogue. That's better. That's better. TDF is now beyond Tigray region, controlling beyond Tigray region. So it's a formidable force. It could take over the whole country. It could. So calling it by different names, spoiling its name, will not stop them. It is better to have dialogue, reconciliation to end this conflict, to end this war between the same nation, among the same citizens. So that's it. And another one is Ethiopia declines Sudanese offer to mediate Tigray crisis. Ethiopia declined Sudan's offer to broker a negotiated settlement to end the armed conflict in Tigray and allow humanitarian access to the troubled region. Sudanese Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok who chairs the East African bloc of IGAD, proposed to mediate between the Ethiopian government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. Several leaders in the region and the international community support the offer, which the Sudanese premier had also discussed with the two parties and Eritrea, which was not very enthusiastic about the idea. Commenting on a report the Sudan Tribune published Thursday, Bilene Siyum, spokesperson of the Prime Minister Office, Prime Minister of Ethiopia, told reporters that Sudan should first resolve the border dispute with Ethiopia before being interested for such mediation. So that's their excuse. The relationship with Sudan is a little bit tricky because the level of some leaders has already been eroded, particularly with the Sudanese army incursion into Ethiopia territory, Bilene Siyum said in a press briefing held on Thursday. Trust is the basis of any negotiation and any mediation as well, so that element needs to be thoroughly addressed before Sudan could be entertained as a credible party in terms of facilitating such kind of negotiation, she stressed. Sudanese officials say they believe that the continued armed conflict near its eastern border would affect the country as a result of the restriction on humanitarian access to the northern Ethiopia region. The United States voiced her support to the Sudanese initiative, but Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed didn't meet USAID Administrator Samantha Power during her one-day visit in Addis Ababa. Samantha Power only met with the Ethiopian Peace Minister Mufariat Kamil, who briefed her about the humanitarian aid her government provides to the civilians in Tigray. I once again called for a cessation of hostilities and unfettered humanitarian access, Samantha Power tweeted before leaving Addis Ababa. So, Sudan, as I said before, I reported on this one. So this is a confirmation, credit for Sudanese Tribune, attempting to end the conflict between the central government in Addis Ababa and the TDF, but using different excuses. Ethiopia refused Sudanese mediation. You know, they don't want to end the bloodshed. They want to show their power. They want to use all the resources, all human, material, and financial, everything in their attempt to defeat TDF and to show their power. They are trying. They tried in the last 8 months, 9 months. It didn't work, but still insisting resolving this thing by force or by power. So the mediation was appreciated, but they rejected. They want to continue the bloodshed. They want to continue the death and the destruction of that country or the disintegration of that country unless a savior emerges. Hamas hails Lebanese retaliation to Israel attacks. This is news about that troubled region, Middle East, always on and off. So let's read. The Palestinian Islamic Resistance Movement Hamas on Friday hailed the Lebanese retaliation to Israel attacks in the south of the country, a statement announced. We congratulate and fully support the response made by the Islamic resistance in the Lebanon this morning, that was on Friday morning, and it is bombing of the sites belonging to the Zionist enemy in response to the crimes of the occupation and targeting Lebanese territories. So resisting the occupation and responding to its crimes and violation is a right guaranteed to the occupied and abused peoples, the statement added. Hezbollah claimed responsibility for firing a barrage of rockets in northern Israel, declaring that firing the rockets came in retaliation to Israeli air strikes in the southern Lebanon. Open lands in the vicinity of Israel occupation sites in the Shaba farm were targeted with dozens of 122 mm rockets, Hezbollah confirmed in a statement reported by Anadolu Agency. According to Hezbollah, the bombing was in response to Israeli airstrikes in open land in Al-Jarmak and Al-Shawakiri area on Thursday night. Hamas has condemned these attacks. This behavior reflects the Zionist policy of arrogance against all components of the nation and its people. Hazim Qasim, spokesperson for the movement, asserted in a statement. He added, Zionist terrorism, which extends across the region, will not stop the resistance of the nation to the Zionist colonial project that aims to expand on its land and seize the nation's capabilities. So that is, Hezbollah confirming the firing of rocket and Hamas, the Palestinian organization, congratulating, Hezbollah for firing, for defending itself against Israel or the Zionist regime they call. So that's it. And this is a statement on the same situation. It's a press release by U.S. State Department. I'm gonna read this because that area is very sensitive for the United States, for Israel, and for other Middle Eastern countries. Very sensitive issue and never been resolved because the United States is a strong supporter of Israel plus some other Western countries. So nothing can be resolved through United Nations or can be resolved with the help of the United States. No. The United States stands with Israel no matter what. That's why the issue is keep coming and going on and off. That's a trouble region. Hezbollah rocket attack into Israel. U.S. statement press release, August 6, 2021. The United States condemned in the strongest term Hezbollah's rocket attacks into Israel. This violation puts Israel and Lebanese at risk and jeopardizes Lebanon's stability and sovereignty. The United States remain engaged with Israel and the Lebanese officials as well as the Lebanese armed forces. We call upon the Lebanese government urgently to prevent such attacks and bring the area under its control. We also urge the Lebanese government to facilitate full access for UNIFIL peacekeepers in accordance with UNSCR 1701. Maybe these are United Nations resolution, I don't know. We strongly encourage all efforts to maintain calm. So that's strong statement from U.S. State Department on firing of a rocket into Israel by Lebanon or Hezbollah. So also Israel also conducted some airstrikes in Gaza and other places. So that's as I said, that's a very sensitive area, very fragile. You know, easily can be ignited if it's not controlled. Okay, the last part of today's reading. White House announced final extension of student loan repayment pause. This is good. This is good news. At least about what, an extension by 4 months for now. About student who borrowed from federal government or private loans to complete their degrees. So due to COVID-19, everything messed up. They extended until supposed to start in October 1st, 2021. But now the White House extended it. U.S. President Joe Biden administration on Friday announced a final extension of coronavirus relief pause on federal student loan repayment, interest, and collection until January 31, 2022. Yeah, it's not a long time, but it's still better than October 2021. So now it's moved until January 2022. So about 4 months or 5 months. The extension of the pause, which had been due to expire on September 30, 2021, comes as cases of the Delta variant of the coronavirus continue to surge around the United States. That is the main cause of this extension. COVID-19, now Delta virus is increasing. The Department of Education believes this additional time and a definitive end date will allow borrowers to plan for the resumption of payment and reduce the risk of delinquency and defaults after restart. A White House statement said. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and 2 fellow Democratic lawmakers hailed the extension, but said the measure didn't go far enough. Our broken student loan system continues to exacerbate racial wealth gaps and hold back our entire economy, he said in a statement with Senator Elizabeth Warren and Representative Ian Presley. We continue to call on the administration to use its existing executive authority to cancel $50,000 of student debt per borrower. So I reported on this thing before. Chuck Schumer, Senator Elizabeth Warren, and other, Democrats support the cancellation of student debt at least by 50,000. But there is also a petition on change.org. More than enough signatures collected to cancel student debt totally. Whether the Biden administration will agree or not, we don't know. But now is for sure we know it is extended until January 2022 for the next 4 months, and we will follow it. If anything changes, if any cancellation or any extension, concerned citizens media will report to you. This is very, very essential, very essential, especially when the economy is in a challenging situation. And, you know, student debt is not easy. It's not easy. You got to have, very good job to pay it off. So that's the challenge. I hope they will be successful to cancel at least 50,000. Possibly, if they can cancel, the whole amount, and that will give the borrowers to enjoy American dreams, to buy house, to have their own car, and other, instead of worrying about this student debt. Thank you again for listening to me for the reading part. Let's do some videos and finish up today's presentation. Okay, let's see. I have three short ones. Okay, let's see. There you go.
Good afternoon, everyone. We just heard a distorted statement about the Mercer Street vessel incident. Let me say a few words about it. First, our thoughts are with the families of those who have lost their loved ones in that unfortunate incident. Immediately following this event, Israeli officials accused Iran of the incident. This is what they usually do. It is a standard practice of the Israeli regime. Its aim is to divert attention of the world public opinion from the regime's crimes and inhuman practices in the region. To that end, they accuse others of wrongdoing. In almost all incidents in the Middle East, Israel accuses Iran. They do it immediately and provide no evidence.
So this is a briefing from the United Nations.
Playing
I think
victim,
this is Iran's
lying
ambassador.
and deception are part of their toolbox. Israeli hue and cry on the Mercer Street incident is aimed, in particular, at hiding its terrorist acts against commercial navigation. Only in less than 2 years, this regime has attacked over 10 commercial vessels in regional seas. On 17 January 2021, the Syrian Prime Minister stated that 7 oil tankers en route to Syria were attacked. Israel was behind these incidents that caused serious fuel shortage in Syria. On 11 March 2021, mainstream media outlets reported that Israel targeted at least a dozen vessels bound for Syria, mostly carrying oil. On 23 April 2021, an oil tanker off Syria's coast was attacked by a drone. 3 Syrians, including 2 members of the crew, were killed. Again, Israel was responsible for the attack. These are only a few examples of adventurism and destabilizing activities of the Israeli regime at regional seas. Such unlawful and terrorist acts seriously threaten maritime security, disrupt freedom of navigation, and endanger energy security. Likewise, Israel continues its systematic and persistent aggressions against sovereignty and territorial integrity of regional countries. These illegal acts constitute a serious threat to regional and international peace and security. The latest example is its recent airstrike on Lebanon. These are gross violations of international law and the UN Charter, and shall not go unpunished. The Security Council must prevent Israelis' unbridled adventurism in the region. The Security Council must also prove that it is not trapped by Israeli deceptions and fabrications. We categorically reject the unfounded accusation of Israel on the Mercer Street vessel incident, as we have written in our recent letter to the Council's President. The Israeli regime cannot whitewash its destabilizing practices and vicious policies by blaming and accusing others. This regime has been the main source of threat, instability, and insecurity in the region for over 7 decades. Its weapons of mass destruction continue to endanger the entire region. It is the sole possessor of nuclear weapons in the region. It is also the only non-party to the NPT in the region, and its dangerous nuclear facilities and activities are not under the IEA's comprehensive safeguards. The Israeli regime also continues to brazenly threaten to use force against regional states. Again, yesterday, its defense minister threatened to use force against Iran. Iran warns against any such adventurism and miscalculations. Yet, Iran will not hesitate to defend itself and secure its national interests. I thank you for your attention.
Ambassador?
Okay, she don't want to deal with journalists.
Good afternoon. I wanted to say that in the Security Council this morning, the United Kingdom, along with France, the United States, Norway and Ireland and Estonia, raised the issue of the 29 July attack on the tanker MV Merchant Street. The UK briefed the Security Council on the evidence we have about what happened, and that evidence is clear-cut. The UK knows that Iran was responsible for this attack. We know it was deliberate and targeted. There is no justification for what happened. A state-sanctioned attack on a civilian vessel passing peacefully through international waters. Tragically, 2 civilians, a Romanian and a British citizen, died as a result of Iran's disregard for international law. The global economy, our food, our goods, depends on the safety of commercial shipping. That's why we have international laws that protect the freedom of navigation. Respecting these laws is fundamental for the maintenance of international peace and security. This is a widely accepted principle across the international system, and the Council will discuss maritime security again at a high-level debate next week. Iran is not respecting those laws. Iran's activities and its support to proxy forces and non-state armed actors threaten international peace and security. So the United Kingdom calls on Iran to stop these activities and calls on all parties to play a constructive role in fostering regional stability and peace. Thank you.
Thanks. Michelle Nichols from Reuters. The other day, the Deputy Russian Ambassador questioned the UK use of the words highly likely that Iran was behind the attack. Has that assessment changed? Could you clarify that for us? And what sort of evidence do you have? Can you tell us a bit of detail about that?
Our assessment is unchanged. We know that Iran was responsible for this attack. And the evidence, we are confident, based on our assessment of the debris that was recovered from the MV Mercer Street, that the system used in the attack was an Iranian Shahed 136 UAV. And these are manufactured only in Iran.
And just another follow-up question. Are you going to try and push for a Security Council statement, or do you expect any further action here?
Well, I think, as my Foreign Secretary said, the door for diplomacy and dialogue remains open. But if Iran chooses not to take that route, then we would seek to hold Iran to account and apply cost to that. And we do have the further discussion next week on maritime security under the Indian presidency. Thank you.
Okay, that's UK ambassador describing the situation and UK side. What they think.
Defying COVID-19 restrictions on gatherings, anti-government
Okay,
demonstrators
this is the last
faced off
video.
with police just 500 meters from the Prime Minister's residence in Bangkok.
Bangkok,
Police
Thailand
fired tear gas
protesters.
and rubber bullets, but said it was in retaliation to protesters throwing firecrackers and other objects at them.
What police have been doing is to strictly follow police measures and police operations based on domestic laws and international laws with international standard.
Protesters had gathered around Victory Monument on their bikes earlier on Saturday afternoon. A youth-led protest movement for democracy rose up last year, but lost momentum after an increase in COVID-19 cases and the arrest of several protest leaders. But people are once again protesting, angered by the government's handling of the pandemic.
People are out on the street because they are suffering. The government shut down the economy, but we didn't get any kind of compensation from the government.
Prime Minister Prayut must leave right now. The people need a good vaccine. We see people die every day. People have to fend for themselves because the government can't help much.
Thailand has been reporting record highs in new infections and deaths this week. Its vaccination campaign has been sluggish. The protesters are also calling for part of the budget for the monarchy and the military to be redirected to fight the coronavirus surge in the country. Florence Louis, Al Jazeera.
Okay, thank you, Al Jazeera and UN press briefing on vessel attack and the life lost on I think around Persian Gulf and the Thailand the protesters, that's their right. We are missing this right in Ethiopia. Really, Ethiopians are silenced under the threat of Abiy Ahmed, under the threat of the security and the undercover operatives. So that allow him to continue the bloodshed in the Tigray and now in Afar, Tigray, Benishangul, in Oromia region and other areas, because nobody is challenging him. Nobody is saying, no, your leadership is not working. Nobody is protesting. They did under TPLF, but they couldn't do under Abiy Ahmed administration. Something threatening, something very dangerous happening. I don't think the people love his leadership. They are in a fear of the undercover operatives and by his shoot to kill policy. That's the only thing. The Amara Fano tried once in a massive protest against Abiy Ahmed, insulted him, but the local Amara Prosperity Party silenced those voices, and Abiy Ahmed supported their agenda, agreed to wage a war, agreed to declare TPLF and OLF as terrorist organization. Now they are silent. They are suffering. They are suffering miserably. They were talking about small area in the Tigray region, claiming belong to Amara, Walqait Agade. But the suffering is beyond these small areas now. The death and the destruction to that region and beyond that region. So I hope Ethiopians will come out and challenge this Prime Minister and the Prosperity Party. They say enough is enough. Your time is over. Your leadership is a failure. Please leave the office. The guy, the protester you heard, the Prime Minister must leave. We need some strong voice like that. When things are in the wrong direction, we don't have to be silent. For what? People are dying. They are moving massively toward the north. The investment the family, used for education, for helping these youth to grow, feeding them, educating them, clothing them. All the investment is gonna go to death and the destruction because of Abiy Ahmed leadership, because of his leadership, failed leadership. So war is everywhere. Ethnic conflict is everywhere. So to end this, Ethiopian citizens, they have a right to come out and say enough is enough. Demand this guy to leave the office like his predecessor Haile Mariam Desalegn, which is, I appreciate him. If something didn't work, you have to leave the office, and instead of watching the bloodshed continue. So that's the update. I will follow other news and I will be back with other updates. Thank you again. Share the news, comment on the news, and be safe from COVID-19, especially the new Delta variant going around. Be safe. Use common sense to keep yourself safe, family members safe, and others safe from this spreading virus. So long, everyone. See you again.